Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Tiny Brains Cut podcast on this lovely wintry Monday here in the UK. I hope it's warmer wherever you are. We've got five stories that we want to run through from the last week. Introductions first. I'm Kevin. I'm the founder of Tiny Brains, and
Hi, Kevin.
with me on this side is Pete, who is the Brigadier of Brains. And together we delivering this podcast on a weekly basis, as I say, covering the top five stories from the previous week. So we're going to dive straight in. We're going to talk about Open BCI from Slush. Slush was an event that was held in Helsinki recently, and there was quite a few interesting news stories from it. But Open BCI caught our attention in particular. Pete, do you want to tell us about this?
Yeah, so OpenBCI demonstrated for the first time its Galia Beta headset device. So its brain control interface. On stage, we actually got to see it, in the flesh, and it looked like an impressive piece of kit. It looked like a highly over-engineered head strap, but it's filled with sensors so that it can detect heart, skin, muscles, eyes, brain, all sorts of different parameters for controlling various applications, which OpenBCI think what they're aiming to cover: sort of gaming, entertainment, aviation, simulation, and training, industrial applications. The whole
Indeed, everyone.
smorgasbord. Yeah, they're saying this is like the future. It's probably why people like Gabe Newell have invested.
So I've tried a few of these over my career, neural link interfaces, if you will, and they have been, up and down. What's your take on OpenBCI?
Well, they seem to be front runners. I've not, having not tested it, I couldn't say for sure how well the kit works, but they certainly seem to be leading the pack when it comes to this sort of technology. They've released lots of early developer kits. If you look on their site, they've got all sorts of prototypes and things that you can buy for brain controls applications. But this will be their flagship, without a shadow of a doubt.
And
Uh,
those developer kits are obviously very wallet friendly.
for the announcement, they've opened up pre-orders, and unsurprisingly, the pre-orders start from a wallet-busting 25 grand. You can, for that
That's
money, you
that's
get
25,000 for non-British people.
$25,000.
Okay.
And for that, you get a Varo Aero and then the Galia Beta device as well. Now,
So you get a Vario headset that's not being supported much anymore.
well,
Won't be supported much
it is
anymore.
still supported as such. It's the one. Remember this? The Aero launched a couple of years ago, and it's sort of still being sold for about 900, between 900 and £1,000.
Mhm.
But it actually they're selling it in three or four different formats for this new sensor headsets. You've got the Aero, or you've got the XR3, which is around combined total is about $34,000. Or they are combining it with the new XR4 that Varo just announced, but there's no price on that. There was no price on the website anyway. Uh,
Well, that's a remortgage your house price, I'm assuming.
I would assume so. Or you can, OpenBCI have said that you will be able to buy the device separately, so you don't have to buy it with a Varo headset. But again, there's no price released so far on what that might be, or when these will actually be available. When there's a wish list, you can, like I say, you can pre-order, but there's been no official like this is when it's going to launch.
Well, I mean, for me, it's definitely a try before you buy scenario. So maybe one day I'll get to try it.
Well, considering those prices, I would have thought that they're not really going to do a lot of try before you buy to the average consumer. Yeah,
No, they're not gonna have demonstrations set up in Currys or in Target, I don't think.
yeah. These are going to be global organizations and companies that are going to be spending this sort of money.
Anyway, another story. Moving on. Another story from Slush.
Another story, yeah.
There's another story. Double point.
Okay, so double point. Double point falls into a far more, maybe a far more friendly consumer category. That's certainly what they seem to be aiming for. Double point have basically created a wrist-worn micro gesture device. So looks like a watch, and you can pinch, you can control various items, your hands inside a virtual environment. You can control smart IoT devices, so you can control your lighting, your music, for example. A big portion of their announcement focused on XR. They really see this as a device used for virtual reality. They see this as a device used for augmented reality and mixed reality connections, whether that's input control, gaming control, all that sort of input.
So again, I've had the pleasure of trying several of these devices over the years of that I've been in XR, and in fact, Meta were working on one, I believe, many
They
years
were
ago.
in, they were indeed. We've not heard too much more about what Meta have been doing recently. But yes, again, there have been several of these devices appear over the years. Companies were working on them. Nothing's really come onto the market as a definitive, right, this is the best gesture control device. There've been plenty of prototypes, but this may be the first one. It's still early days at the moment. There is a wait list on Double Point's website, and they have listed as it'll ship holiday 2024.
Okay.
What price they're shipping it for and who they're aiming for, I assume it's going to be towards developers, towards sort of hardware sort of companies at the moment, enterprise rather than consumers or directly to consumers at the moment. We'll have to wait and see on that.
Indeed. Well, I mean, we'll be waiting for a year, presumably, to find out exactly what their plans are, or at least a few months of their shipping a year from now. But again, for me, I'd love to try it.
The,
Wait,
the trouble with these kind of devices though is that you've got hand tracking built into a lot more.
this is true.
Headsets.
But you and I, and probably everyone watching this, knows that hand tracking isn't the most reliable tech right now.
No, it's
Um, not saying it's not going to be a few years from now. I firmly believe in hand tracking as a viable technology, but it's not there yet. So maybe this is an intermediary step for people that have the budget to spend on accessorizing their XR experiences and want to get that tech in their hands now.
It's I certainly see it as a middle ground between hand tracking and full digital data gloves.
Mhm.
That
Yeah,
it is that happy middle ground, isn't it? Where it's it's still hardware based, but it's not intrusive. There's not a lot of friction. You can wear it on your wrist, and it should be easy to use.
but that's my hope as well. As long as their software, their setup process is relatively simple, which we all know, the barriers for getting into VR are one of the biggest issues we have right now.
Exactly.
Um, and on that note comes the next story, the latest Quest update. Um,
Yes. So December is a tends to be a little bit of a quieter month. But we've got a new Quest update, which they do come every month. Version 60 is rolling out over the course of the next few weeks. So you may have already had it. You may see it by the end of December. It's got a few new features across the entire range of Quest headsets. The biggest one being the Quest Pro performance increases. So for Quest Pro users, they'll see if they'll notice, it's a 34% increase in CPU performance and a 19% increase in GPU performance, Meta claims. So that should make
so all
things.
6 of those Quest Pro users will be really happy.
Well, that's it, isn't it? They did the performance increase for Quest 2 earlier this year.
Mhm.
And yes, that will benefit a huge range of customers. Quest Pro, I don't know how many people are actually out there using it, especially now that Quest 3 is out. I imagine sales of the Pro have tanked enormously.
there seems to be another of those, though, conversation that we can have every day of the week about Meta's decisions of where they're putting their resources. Now, they're not going to abandon the Quest Pro audience that they already have, but at the same time, is it, you know, when is the final nail in that coffin going to come? Because the Quest 3, of course, it's so close in performance to the Quest Pro. Is it still worth supporting that device, or is it that they've got so many enterprise customers that they can't abandon it for fear of burning them for later devices?
I would have thought the latter. They don't want to burn the people that have bought them. They did slightly burn customers with the price drop. Only what, a couple of months after the launch. That wasn't a great stroke of genius from Meta. But the Quest Pro hasn't done the numbers. They are reportedly making a follow on,
Mhm.
which will arrive in the next couple of years. Which is, credit to them if they're still going to plug ahead with the Pro. It has got features the Quest 3 doesn't, but when Zuckerberg said that the Quest 3 was their most powerful headset, I can imagine nobody wanted to touch the Pro again, even with
Indeed,
the additional features that it had.
indeed. It's I mean, marketing taglines like that, you can throw them around with abandon, but for people who don't follow this stuff daily, they do make a difference.
Oh yes,
Uh, if you're looking at a price point and you see $1,000 or $500, and this one is more powerful, the you know it's going to be a hard sell to press on your more expensive headset. But then, as you say, there is a potentially a Pro 2 coming down the line. I think really the moves on that will really depend on what Apple end up doing, because although Apple have said dates and price points and locations the Vision Pro will be available, we don't know how much of that is actually going to come true yet. There's no real signs of what the plan is for that launch. Is it going to be throughout most of North America, or is it going to be, as is rumored, in a select few Apple stores? Are they planning on rolling out tens of thousands of these things on day one, or is it going to be single digit thousand units that they'll have available? We just don't know. And if we don't know, you've got to assume that Meta knows more than us, but maybe still not enough to make decisions about where they're going with their higher end headsets.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so sticking with the Quest, we're going to move on now to the biggest news story of last week. That wasn't VR.
Yeah, so a bit of gaming news. You could hardly move and not miss it. GTA 6. Now, while this has no relation to XR, VR in general, we would all love to see GTA 6 on the latest Meta headset. What we are still waiting for is GTA San Andreas.
What we are still waiting for is a 25-year-old game. No, not quite, is it?
I'm not too sure. Yeah, it's early
About 20 years
20s.
old.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, obviously this was announced 2021, I want to say.
Yep, yep.
Um,
Mike mentioned it at Connect 2021, and there was, it was left towards the end of the conference, the end of the keynote.
yeah, the big game.
A big game, big name on it. Everyone's super excited, and we've not heard anything about it since. There's been nothing at the summer Oculus showcase or any VR showcases over the last year.
Now we
Nothing's
did have
happening.
the definitive edition of the GTA 3 trilogy. GTA 3 was it Vice City and San Andreas launched as a triple pack on PlayStation and Xbox consoles, which got absolutely hammered. The performance issues and whatever else, it was not received well. Do you think this had an impact potentially on San Andreas VR?
I don't think this had I don't think it would have had an impact. If it's been dropped or if development is still ongoing, that would have happened a while ago. I don't think the feedback from this would have had an effect on it. I think they've either dropped it and not said anything a while back, or they're still going ahead with it. And even with the poor feedback from that pack, they're still going to
But
go.
this is what I mean. Maybe they've after the feedback from that, they've gone back and gone, actually, we can't just slap this out.
Well, if he mentioned it in 2021, I would assume that they would have been working on it for a short, a reasonable amount of time prior to that. Anyway, what I'm saying is that it's too big a game, it's too big a franchise, I think, for Meta to casually drop.
Yes, I agree.
This year they've got Asgard's Wrath coming out. They've got a few big IPs coming out. We've had Ghostbusters and such like, and they have to. They really need some big IPs for the future.
Yeah. Asgard's Wrath 2 is fantastic. It's a great game for people who know what Asgard's Wrath is, but it is not your cinema screen pre-film commercial buy VR for this brand new franchise, this existing franchise that you know and love now in VR. Ghostbusters, great, but it's not the powerhouse it once was. Assassin's Creed, great again, more like Assassin's Creed essentially, and in terms of more like Assassin's Creed gaming franchise, it doesn't get any bigger than Grand Theft Auto, right?
No,
As much as I love Zelda, it's not as popular as Grand Theft Auto.
no, it isn't. It isn't anymore. So my prediction is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas coming in 2025 alongside GTA 6, and nobody will care about San Andreas. It'll be like, who's that?
Nobody will care about GTA 6, obviously, because VR will be everywhere by 2025, right?
Oh yeah, and they'll care more about a 25, well, maybe a 25-year-old game coming back, from the woodworks.
Yes.
So
Game of the year right there, 2025. Mark it now.
yeah.
Okay, so one last quick one to wrap this up. Arizona Sunshine 2 launched last week. I had the privilege of playing the original Arizona Sunshine all the way through like so many different iterations and so on, prior to launch, at launch, post launch, and the game just changed fundamentally over the years it was supported. It started as a very simple standing only gallery shooter and evolved into the the behemoth that it became so popular. And Arizona Sunshine 2, I haven't had a chance to play yet.
No, I have not either because I've been rather busy. It is on my playlist. From what I've heard, it's really good. It does the franchise justice. It's been a long time coming, considering the original came out in 2016. So we've been waiting a little while for this.
Okay, so because yes, Vertigo Games did try and take a break from Arizona Sunshine with a more sci-fi kind of game in a similar vein after the Fall, and
That is true.
it didn't really land in the same way as Arizona Sunshine did.
No, it never did. They really tried to make it as a purely multiplayer co-op game, which everyone seemed to want, but it didn't have the same traction. And I think it's why Arizona Sunshine 2, they've pushed with the sequel, the co-op capabilities. So you can play the entire campaign with a mate, with one extra person, or you can play the horde mode like they had in the original with 4 players. And I think that's a heavy component in the new game, alongside your new buddy, literally called Buddy, the dog. So
this is Tiny Brains' holiday party coming up. We'll be going and killing some zombies together because I mean, who needs a pub or roast dinners or whatever else when you can kill zombies in the sunshine?
well, exactly. It's winter, it's cold, it's miserable here in the UK, so we want to kill zombies in Arizona.
Make us feel warm. The power of VR.
Exactly. Woo.
Okay, well, that's it for this week. This is our picks of the stories from last week. We'll be back again next Monday with another 5 big stories. And don't forget to go ahead and follow us on Twitter or go ahead and visit tinybrains.uk for more info on us.